Hi everyone, Xavier here, and I wanted to share with you a couple effects I did on my last shorts and show you how this tiny bit of effect could actually improve the overall quality, how you should use that, and perhaps you'll learn a couple techniques along the way. So first thing first, make a good difference between visual effects and special effects. Visual are what you do in post on computer, CGI, computer generated, whatever, in a position to special effects, which are real life explosion, car chase, or whatever. And that goes along kind of with this general rule that every kind of experience or filmmaker or even professional one will tell you: what you can do for real, do it for real. It will save you. It will save you a lot of time in post. For example, if I had been able to put a green screen behind this TGV, this train window, that would have saved me perhaps 2 days of work. But I could not. Anyway, last point I wanted to tell you, and it's kind of obvious but not necessarily: pay attention to details. Tiny bit of details really can improve your video. People won't notice it, but people will feel it for sure. Alright, we're here in After Effects. And the first thing you may have noticed, let me remove all this kind of stuff. Yes, I have here again my two layers, these two firsts. I'm not doing it again, I'm just showing you, I'm just deconstructing what I did. And I have my mask, very good. And I have a bit of progressive edges, as you may see. Where I'm lucky here is I was using a tripod shot, so I can keep it steady. And actually, why do I have this mask in the first place, you may ask, is because, well, if you take the video, the default video, so the base layer, it's actually this. Train leaving the station. And I was like, I would actually like it, since I have it on tape, to have it come in the train station. So, well, it's just reverse the time, but if I reverse the time, as you know, people will be walking backwards, and that's just freaking awkward. So what you can do is just add this mask around the train to make it come to the station and people keep walking forwards, right? Then what's burning my eyes is this flicker on those clocks. I mean, literally everything that is connected to the outlets, whatever, it's flickering. So what you can do is actually zoom in a lot. I know it's just a bunch of pixels, obviously, but these pixels, they are flickering, and that sucks. So what you can just do is come here. You have a frame where everything is lit up. You just take, once again, your pencil, you draw a mask around it. Well, here I already have a layer with it, as you can see, and I draw my mask, my square. Once again, I do it here. I know it's purple, you don't see it. Let me change it for red. Now you can see the mask. And if you come in your timeline, you can just like click, instant, freeze. This frame is perfect. And so, if we come back full frame, you see it's not flickering anymore, and that is good. For the fun, because this is this poster for Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, I thought it would be funny to replace them with a poster of the Gunther project, which was my bigger project like last year. So how did I do that? I just took my main square poster. I added a title like a newspaper, an unbelievable movie by Le Monde, and then I added some chit chat like stuff under there. We don't even read it. It doesn't matter. It's just like text. I added Studio Canal, which is a big stuff in France, and Europa Corp, which is the only studio in Europe making blockbusters. You simply add a power pin, obviously. With a power pin, you just place your corners very precisely zooming in. It's very basic effects actually, but you just place your corners. Then what is always useful to add is a mask, a square mask that is around your layer. I mean, if I enable this effect, you see that my square mask is actually just around that. How do you do that? It's super simple. Let me grab my main window here. You just double click on this tool and it creates this mask, the square mask around your layer. No job to do, just double click. And then what you can do is come on your timeline, go with your mask, remove, here I have a very, very big sequence. It's like a 4,000 pixel sequence. You can remove 20 pixels and fade 20 pixels. What it does is actually, well, this kind of feather on the edges that you can see here, these tiny feathers, those are 20 pixels in this comp, because once again, it's a huge comp. If you have a tiny layer, you need to have less pixel in the feathering. But what it does, it will blend a bit more smoothly. Where is it? Automatic saving, sorry. Those edges here, you see it's not always super sharp. Not only because of the depth of field, but it's not always super sharp. So you can add this tiny bit of... Oh, I could perhaps adjust my pop in here. Just a touch. Yep. Like that. Okay. You can always have this kind of feathering. It's better. Obviously, if you go back to the full frame, you can see it's by far too contrasty, too colorful. So what you can do is contrast, light in contrast, luminosity in contrast is not powerful enough for a tool. So I used levels. Because levels here is much more powerful. Let me show you the settings. What I simply did is the output white and black, I just diminishes it. It changes the contrast a lot, and you see I can bring more or less contrast here. You could sort of say that the light coming here is reflecting more or less. So here is less contrasty, here's a bit more contrast, and I have the more contrast on the right edge here, on this one. And then I do the same with vibrance. I just simply diminish the vibrance, helps a lot, and add a blur, an objective blur to be quite respectful of the camera. Here less blur, and more blur, obviously. Just a touch. It's not a lot, it's I think just 6, you see it's not much, but it does a job. And then you have something pretty convincing for adding this posters. Now last thing I'm noticing while I'm talking to you is how can a train enter the station and have this red light on? So let me change that, and I think I'll do it by, it's a tiny movement. So what I could do actually is take this layer, duplicate it, Control D. I could add a mask on top of it. What I could do also is just animate the masks. I would, yeah, I'll do that. Be much more simpler. Select all the masks here, and I'm gonna go animate. Since it's a linear movement, it's super easy to animate. The movement is super linear, so it should follow this. Yeah, no problem. Let me check. Let me solo this layer. So yeah, I want to intersect to have only this one. Right. I could even just remove this mask. It's not useful actually. And add and feather a touch, because you always want to feather a touch. Perhaps a touch less, 5 pixels is fine, yes. And now what I want to do is actually try to either play with a hue. I think I'm going to play with a hue. So how do I do that? Let me again show you. It shouldn't be too hard. Let me add, select my layer first, add hue saturation, and it should be somewhere around the reds, even though it's a tiny bit of red. But if I turn it to, yeah, that's kind of yellowish. I think it does the job. It's kind of yellow. It's kind of greenish on this side. I don't really like it. Let me change it a bit. Yeah, expand the range and tweak the saturation here. It should do the job. Pop up the luminosity to kind of bleach this. We're zoomed in a lot, so it's always a bit hard to be a good judge on top of that. So now let's add all the other layers and go back to full size, and let's see if it's convincing. It's not incredible. I think this would be the white light and this would be off. So we might be able to swap both of them. I think it's safer here. We could actually repaint all that. It'll be safer to stick with that. It's good enough. People won't notice. So that's pretty much it. What you have to do on such a frame, which is a simple frame, but to make it look as good as possible. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I invite you to share, to subscribe, to like as usual, and I'll see you very soon for other videos. I have one coming down the way, which are ready to be edited. So, which is ready to be edited. Anyway, see you very soon.